I couldn't stop the tears from streaming down my face as I hung up the phone. My husband, Trent, had just been on a call with his sister, and I overheard him express doubts about my pregnancy being real. The words stung like 1,000 needles, piercing my heart. I confronted Trent as soon as he ended the call. "How could you say that about me? About our baby?" I demanded, my voice trembling with a mix of anger and hurt. Trent rolled his eyes, his expression dismissive. "Oh, come on, Lila. You've been milking this pregnancy thing for all it's worth. Always complaining, always making excuses not to do anything around the house." I was stunned by his callous words. "Are you serious? I've been struggling with severe morning sickness, and you think I'm just faking it?" "Maybe you're exaggerating a little," he shrugged. "My colleague's wife had no problem keeping up with everything when she was pregnant." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The man I had married, the one who had promised to love and support me, was now accusing me of lying and comparing me to some idealized version of a pregnant woman. "Trent, this is our child we're talking about," I pleaded, hoping to reach the compassionate side of him that seemed to have vanished. "I need you to be there for me, to understand what I'm going through." But he just scoffed. "Stop being so dramatic. It's not like you're the first woman to ever get pregnant. Just suck it up and stop using it as an excuse to be lazy." His words cut deep, and I couldn't hold back the tears any longer. I turned away, not wanting him to see how much he had hurt me. As I retreated to the bedroom, I couldn't help but wonder what had happened to the man I fell in love with. Where was the caring, supportive partner I had married? And how could I make him see that his behavior was tearing us apart? In the following weeks, my morning sickness only seemed to worsen. I could barely keep anything down, and the constant nausea left me feeling drained and exhausted. Even simple tasks like making the bed or doing the dishes felt like monumental challenges. Trent, however, showed no signs of understanding or empathy. Instead, his impatience grew with each passing day. "I can't believe you let the house get this messy," he sneered one morning as he surveyed the cluttered living room. "It's like you're not even trying anymore." I tried to explain, my voice weak and strained. "Trent, I'm really struggling with this pregnancy. The nausea is constant, and I can barely function." But he just scoffed, his eyes cold and dismissive. "Don't give me that excuse again. My colleague Dean's wife managed to keep everything together when she was pregnant. She never let her house look like this pigsty." The comparison stung, and I fought back tears. "I'm sorry, but I'm not Dean's wife. I'm dealing with this the best I can." Trent's jaw tightened, and I could see the anger simmering behind his eyes. "You know, Dean's right. You're just using this pregnancy as an excuse to be lazy and avoid your responsibilities." I recoiled, stunned by his harsh words. "What? I'm not using anything as an excuse. I'm genuinely struggling here." But Trent wasn't listening. He just shook his head in disgust. "You're pathetic. I can't believe I married someone so weak and useless." His words cut me to the core, and I couldn't hold back the tears any longer. I fled to the bedroom, sobs racking my body. As I buried my face in the pillow, trying to muffle the sound of my anguish, I couldn't help but wonder how things had gone so wrong. Who was this cruel, heartless man, and what had happened to the loving, supportive partner I had married? It was as if Trent had been slowly poisoned by the toxic influence of his colleague Dean, and the man I knew was slowly slipping away. I knew I couldn't go on like this, but I felt powerless to stop the downward spiral. With each passing day, Trent's disdain and cruelty only seemed to grow, and I was left wondering if there was any hope left for our relationship, or if I was doomed to endure this torment until the bitter end. My best friend Nora could see the toll this situation was taking on me. She had been witness to Trent's escalating verbal abuse, and it broke her heart to see me so defeated and broken. One afternoon she came over unannounced, her face etched with concern. "Lila, we need to talk," she said, her voice gentle but firm. I looked at her with tired, puffy eyes, the aftermath of another emotional outburst from Trent. "What is there left to say, Nora? He's made it clear he doesn't care about me or this baby." Nora shook her head adamantly. "No, that's not true. He's just lost his way somehow. But we can't let him treat you like this any longer." I sighed heavily, feeling utterly helpless. "But what can I do? He won't listen to reason, and he's convinced I'm just making everything up." Nora's expression hardened, a newfound determination in her eyes. Then we'll make him listen. I've been recording some of his outbursts on my phone. My eyes widened in surprise. You, what, Nora, it's what we need to do, she insisted. We need proof of how he's been treating you. Then we can take it to a professional, get you the help and support you deserve. I hesitated, uncertain about the ethics of secretly recording my husband. But as I looked at Nora's unwavering resolve, I knew she was right. This situation had spiraled too far out of control, and I needed all the ammunition I could get. Reluctantly, I nodded. Okay, let's do it. Over the next few days, Nora continued to document Trent's tirades, capturing his cruel words and dismissive attitude on her phone's audio recordings. And sure enough, another explosive argument erupted, giving her the perfect opportunity to catch his behavior in action. You're useless. Do you know that? Trent spat, his face twisted with contempt. I don't know why I even bother with you anymore. As his harsh words cut through me like knives, Nora's phone was silently capturing it all. When the outburst finally ended, she gently took my hand and led me to the bedroom, away from Trent's seething presence. Lila, you can't go on like this, she said, her voice thick with emotion. This is abuse, plain and simple. It's time to get professional help. I nodded numbly, feeling utterly drained and defeated. But deep down, I knew Nora was right. If I stayed on this path, it would only lead to further destruction, for me and for my unborn child. With a heavy heart, I agreed to seek counseling and legal advice. It was a difficult step, but one that I knew was necessary to escape the toxic spiral my life had become. And with Nora by my side, I found the strength to take that first, crucial step towards a better future. With Nora's encouragement, I decided to make one last effort to get through to Trent. I scheduled a counseling session, hoping that having a third party present might help him see reason and work on improving our relationship before it was too late. When I told Trent about the appointment, he immediately bristled. Counseling? Are you kidding me? We don't need some shrink meddling in our personal lives. Trent, please, I pleaded. Our marriage is falling apart. We need help to work through this. He scoffed dismissively. There's nothing to work through. You're the one with the problem, not me. I felt my frustration rising, but I tried to keep my composure. That's not true, and you know it. Your behavior towards me has been inexcusable, and it's only getting worse. Trent's eyes narrowed, and I could see the anger simmering behind them. So, what, you're going to gang up on me with some therapist now? Make me out to be the bad guy? No one's trying to gang up on you, I said, struggling to remain calm. I just want us to talk this through, with someone impartial there to help us communicate. But Trent was having none of it. He shook his head vehemently. Forget it. I'm not doing this. The day of the appointment arrived, and despite my pleas, Trent refused to come. I went alone, feeling defeated and hopeless. The therapist, Dr. Miller, was kind and understanding as I explained the situation. Your husband's resistance is not uncommon in cases like this, she said gently. But it's important that you don't give up. She suggested trying a different approach, one that might make Trent feel less cornered and defensive. Invite him to a session under the guise of discussing your concerns about the pregnancy and his role as a father. That way, it doesn't seem like an attack on him personally. I agreed to try her suggestion, though I couldn't help but feel skeptical. Trent had become so entrenched in his behavior, so unwilling to see reason, that I doubted anything would get through to him at this point. Still, I persisted, extending the olive branch once more. Trent, I know you're feeling overwhelmed about becoming a father, I said gently. Why don't we go talk to someone about it? Get some advice on how to prepare and what to expect? To my surprise, he agreed, though his demeanor remained guarded and tense. I should have known better than to get my hopes up. The session was a disaster from the start. Trent sat in sullen silence, arms crossed defiantly as Dr. Miller tried to engage us in conversation. When she probed about our relationship struggles, he exploded. This is a waste of time, he shouted, his face twisted with rage. You're just trying to turn me into the bad guy here, aren't you? Dr. Miller tried to calm him, but it was no use. Trent stormed out, leaving me devastated and ashamed. As I drove home alone, tears streaming down my face, I knew that I couldn't go on like this any longer. Trent had made his choice, and it was clear that he had no intention of changing or seeking help. With a heavy heart, I realized that my only option left was to take drastic action, for my own well-being and for the safety of my unborn child. It was time to issue an ultimatum, and this time I had to be prepared to follow through, no matter how painful it might be. After the disastrous counseling session, I knew it was time to take a stand. With Nora's support, I gathered my courage and confronted Trent with an ultimatum. "Trent, this can't go on any longer," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Your behavior towards me has become abusive, and it's not okay." He scoffed, rolling his eyes. "Here we go again with the dramatics." "No, I'm serious," I pressed on. "If you don't make a genuine effort to change and start treating me with respect, I'm going to have to leave." That got his attention. His eyes narrowed as he glared at me. "You're threatening to leave me? Over what? Because I expect you to pull your weight around here?" "This has nothing to do with housework, Trent," I said, fighting back tears. "This is about the way you've been belittling me, dismissing my struggles, and making me feel worthless." He shook his head dismissively. "You're just overreacting as usual." I took a deep breath, steeling my resolve. "I'm not overreacting. This is about preserving my self-worth and protecting our child from growing up in a toxic environment." "So what's it going to be? Are you going to make an effort to change or not?" For a moment Trent seemed conflicted, but then his expression hardened. "Fine," he said curtly. "I'll play along for now, but don't think this means you've won." I knew better than to believe his words at face value, but I had no choice but to give him a chance to prove himself. Little did I know, Trent had no intention of changing his ways. Instead, he sought solace in the toxic influence of his colleague, Dean. "She's got some nerve, threatening to leave like that," Trent ranted to Dean over drinks one night. "Like I'm the one who's been acting unreasonable." Dean shook his head, his expression grim. "Women, man. They're all the same, manipulative and controlling. You can't let her walk all over you like that." Trent nodded, emboldened by Dean's words. "You're right. I need to take control of this situation before it gets out of hand." And so, with Dean's guidance, Trent devised a plan, a twisted game of manipulation and deceit. He would pretend to comply with my demands, all the while secretly undermining my efforts and plotting his next move. Over the following weeks, Trent put on a convincing act. He was more attentive, more considerate, and even attended a couple of counseling sessions without incident. But behind closed doors, he was seeking advice from Dean on how to regain control and put me in my place. Little did Trent know, Nora had become increasingly suspicious of his sudden change in behavior. She continued to document his interactions with Dean, capturing their disturbing conversations on her ever-present phone recordings. It was only a matter of time before the truth came to light, and when it did, the fallout would be catastrophic. But for now, I allowed myself to believe that Trent had finally seen the error of his ways, unaware of the sinister game he was playing. A game that would ultimately lead to his downfall. As the weeks passed, Trent's facade of compliance began to crumble. Nora had been secretly recording his conversations with Dean, capturing their disturbing plans to undermine me and reassert Trent's control. Armed with this evidence, I knew it was time to take drastic action. With Nora's help, I arranged a surprise gathering, inviting both our families under the guise of celebrating the impending arrival of our child. When everyone had arrived, I took a deep breath, steeling my nerves for the confrontation ahead. Trent shot me a confused look, but I simply nodded to Nora, who pressed play on her phone. The recordings filled the room, Dean's poisonous words echoing loud and clear. "You can't let her walk all over you like that. Women are all manipulative and controlling." Gasps and murmurs rippled through the room as our families listened in horror. Trent's face drained of color, realizing he had been caught red-handed. "Is this true, Trent?" his sister asked, her voice trembling with disbelief. "Have you really been treating Lila this way?" Trent opened his mouth to protest, but I cut him off, playing another recording, this time his own words. "She's got some nerve, threatening to leave like that. I need to take control of this situation before it gets out of hand." The room fell silent, the weight of his cruelty and deceit hanging heavy in the air. Trent's family looked at him with a mix of disappointment and disgust, while my own family rallied around me, offering support and comfort. Finally, Trent's sister spoke up, her voice thick with emotion. "Lila, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. Trent, how could you do this to her, to your own family?" But Trent remained defiant, his face twisted in a sneer. "She's been manipulating all of you. Can't you see she's just playing the victim here?" I shook my head, feeling a strange sense of calm wash over me. "No, Trent. The only one manipulating here is you. And now, everyone can see the truth." With that, I played the final recording, a damning conversation between Trent and Dean, discussing strategies to wear me down and assert his dominance. The room erupted in outrage, my family and Trent's alike, condemning his actions and rallying around me. In that moment, I knew I had won. Not just the battle, but the war. Trent's mask had finally slipped, revealing the ugly truth of his character. And as he stood there, surrounded by the people who had once trusted and loved him, he had nowhere left to hide. His sister approached me, tears in her eyes. "Lila, I'm so sorry. You didn't deserve any of this. We're here for you, whatever you need." And just like that, the tides had turned. Trent's carefully constructed web of lies had unraveled, leaving him exposed and alone, while I found myself surrounded by a support system stronger than I could have ever imagined. As I looked around at the faces of my loved ones, united in their condemnation of Trent's actions, I knew that this was just the beginning. The road ahead would be long and difficult, but with their help, I would find the strength to break free from this toxic cycle once and for all, no matter what it took. In the aftermath of the confrontation, my family rallied around me, offering unwavering support. With their encouragement, I made the decision to leave Trent, for good. My sister opened her home to me, providing a safe haven as I began the process of filing for divorce. "You don't have to go through this alone," she assured me, wrapping her arms around me in a comforting embrace. As news of Trent's despicable behavior spread, he found himself increasingly ostracized. His colleagues at work, once impressed by his charismatic persona, now looked at him with thinly veiled contempt. Respecting women and valuing integrity were core values in his profession, and Trent had violated them in the most egregious way. Even Dean, his once trusted ally, distanced himself, realizing that his toxic influence had gone too far. Trent had become a pariah, his reputation in tatters. Meanwhile, I found strength in the solidarity of my loved ones. Nora, my steadfast friend, was by my side every step of the way, offering a listening ear and a shoulder to lean on when the emotions became overwhelming. As the divorce proceedings unfolded, the evidence of Trent's emotional and psychological abuse proved damning. The recordings Nora had collected, coupled with witness testimonies from our families, painted a clear picture of his abusive behavior. Faced with the irrefutable proof of his cruelty, Trent had little recourse. His attempts to gaslight and manipulate fell flat, as the truth had already been laid bare. In the end, the settlement was heavily in my favor. Not only did I receive a substantial portion of our shared assets, but Trent was also ordered to undergo mandatory counseling and anger management. A small victory, but a vindication nonetheless. As I signed the final divorce papers, a weight lifted from my shoulders. I was finally free from the toxicity that had consumed my life for far too long. Trent, on the other hand, found himself in a deep hole of his own making. His once promising career hung in the balance, as word of his actions spread like wildfire through professional circles. Integrity and respect were paramount in his line of work, and he had squandered both in the most public and humiliating way. As the months passed, I focused on healing and preparing for the arrival of my child. With the support of my family and friends, I found strength in the knowledge that Trent's actions had been his own undoing. And when the day finally came, and I held my precious newborn in my arms, I felt a profound sense of peace. This child would never know the pain and turmoil that had once plagued our lives. Instead, they would be surrounded by love, support, and the unwavering strength of those who had stood by me through the darkest of times. As I gazed into my baby's eyes, I silently vowed to be the parent Trent could never be, loving, nurturing, and fiercely protective. And in that moment, I knew that while the road ahead might be challenging, I would never again be defined by the actions of a man who had lost his way. My future, and that of my child, was mine to shape. a future filled with hope, resilience, and the knowledge that even in the darkest of times, light can always find a way to shine through. With the divorce finally finalized, I found myself embarking on a new chapter, one filled with both trepidation and hope. The settlement had been generous, thanks in large part to Trent's tarnished reputation and the overwhelming evidence of his misconduct. Not only had I been awarded a substantial portion of our shared assets, but the court had also ordered Trent to cover my legal fees and provide child support. It was a small vindication, an acknowledgement of the emotional and psychological turmoil he had put me through. As I packed up my belongings, preparing to start afresh in a new city, I couldn't help but reflect on the long and arduous journey that had brought me to this point. The bruises may have been invisible, but they had left their mark, nonetheless. Nora, ever my steadfast ally, helped me load the last of my boxes into the moving truck. "You know, I'm going to miss having you around," she said, her voice thick with emotion. I pulled her into a tight embrace, holding back tears of my own. "I'll miss you too, more than you know, but I need this fresh start, a chance to heal and to focus on being the best mother I can be." She nodded, offering a watery smile. "I know, and you're going to be amazing at it. That little one is so lucky to have you." As I said my goodbyes and hit the road, a sense of liberation washed over me. I was finally free from the toxic cycle that had once consumed my life, free to forge my own path without the weight of Trent's manipulation dragging me down. In the new city, I found a cozy apartment nestled in a quiet, family-friendly neighborhood. It was a far cry from the suburban prison I had once called home, a place where I could finally breathe and begin to rebuild. My family rallied around me, offering their unwavering support as I settled into my new surroundings. My sister, ever the doting aunt, would come over to lend a hand with the baby, allowing me precious moments of respite. And as the months passed, I found myself slowly but surely regaining my footing. The dark clouds of doubt and despair that had once loomed overhead began to dissipate, replaced by the warm glow of hope and self-assurance. I even reconnected with an old friend from college, Sarah, who had recently moved to the area with her own family. Our shared experiences as single mothers forged an unbreakable bond, and we quickly became each other's greatest source of strength and solidarity. "You're a warrior, Lila," Sarah would often remind me during our coffee dates. "What you've been through would have broken most people, but you refused to let it define you." And she was right. Despite the darkness I had endured, I had emerged on the other side, stronger and more resilient than ever before. Trent's actions had been a desperate attempt to break my spirit, but in the end, they had only served to harden my resolve. As I watched my child grow and thrive, surrounded by a loving support system, I couldn't help but feel a sense of profound gratitude. This was the life I had fought for, the future I had sacrificed so much to secure. And in those quiet moments, when my little one would gaze up at me with eyes full of innocent wonder, I knew that every tear, every heartache, had been worth it. For in their unblemished gaze, I saw not just the promise of a better tomorrow, but the reminder that even in our darkest moments, love and resilience can ultimately prevail.